get my 6. What's up, everybody? Hope you're warm where you are today. As you can tell, it's cold and snowy here where I am, but I've got a story to tell you. So, busted zipper on my favorite coat and all. Just grabbed a, blanket off the back of the couch here, fleece. Broken zipper on my jacket, cold, snow, all of it combined wasn't going to keep me from coming out here and telling you this story today. I've got to warn you. Listen, evil is real, okay? There is a devil. There are demons. And then there's the whole realm of the paranormal and the supernatural. Some benevolent, peaceful spirits, yes, but some, like it or not, malevolent, as you can imagine. And you might be saying, well, this is all good for entertainment, but I don't believe in the devil, and I don't believe in demons, and I don't believe in the paranormal, but benevolent spirits or malevolent, either way. And that's fine. That's okay. I would tell you 2 things. Number 1, that's your right not to believe in these things. But what I will also tell you is that though you may not believe in the devil, demons, and the paranormal, both good-natured spirits and some quite not so good-natured, the devil, the demons, and the paranormal, both good and bad, believe in you. So, I should have told this story inside by the fire, but I just had to get out of the house after what just took place down there today. I literally tore. I've got video footage I'm going to show you here in a minute. A couple of months ago, I told a story that I think I told a couple of years ago, and I'm not going to reiterate the entire story now. I think it was like a 20-minute video. I mean, the story could be told in 2 or 3 minutes, and per usual, it took me 20. But the 30 seconds or less version here is this. It's something that only happens in the winter. It's strange. I can't put my finger on it to even begin to explain it. But I get up very early, like 5:30, even on the weekends. It's just, I've always been a morning person. I enjoy it. I enjoy just drinking coffee on the couch in front of the fire in the winter, alone with my own thoughts, thinking about what I'm going to do for the day. It's when I get a lot of really good ideas because there's no disturbances. I don't have my wife asking me to do all these honeydew things. I don't have my kids saying, hey, let's go do this, let's go do that. I don't turn on the internet. I don't read. I just sit there with myself and my thoughts. And if you don't do this, I'd recommend you do. It's really one of the best ways to start your day. I pray, meditate, just all sorts of me time, me and higher power time, but certainly no disturbances from, my family and the internet and all that stuff. But our first winter here, I noticed something very strange, and that was what sounded like the ringing of a telephone inside the walls there of our living room. And I've made a few videos from inside the house. You've seen those if you've been here for a while. We've got a wood stove right in the middle of the wall in the living room, and the ringing comes from off to the left where the corner is, and this wall that comes this way, there's the front porch there. So somewhere between the chimney and the side of the porch, that portion of the wall, I've heard, and this is our 6th winter now in this house, for 6 years straight now, I've heard this slight ringing. Now, it's not constant. It doesn't happen every day. As a matter of fact, it only happens a few times at all during the course of a winter. But it happens every winter. Never heard it in the summer, spring, or fall. It's like a winter phenomena. Now, if you've been following the channel for a long time, our house is very old. It's 119 years old. Built in 1903. Next year it'll turn 120. Multiple deaths in the house, on the property. Multiple strange occurrences in the woods and in the meadows and fields surrounding the property. Speak of the, well, I was going to say the devil, which I'm getting ready to speak of, but speak of the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch that may or may not live in the woods behind our house. We've got some tree knocking going on back here now. I mean, there's just any given day or night, you don't know what you're going to get around here. We're surrounded by multi-million-dollar properties. When they get listed, they sell. I mean, a lot of times the properties sell before the listing makes, hits the market. This house sat sat empty for almost 3 years. Nobody wanted to touch it. And then once we bought it at almost half the price of the original sale price, 3 years into it sitting on the market. And after we'd been here for a few months and we started hearing some of the stories of some of these events that took place here that we had no idea ever happened, we kind of started to understand why it sat on the market for so long, why the price continually dropped, and why no one else wanted to touch it. And there are a lot of folks around here that kind of treated us almost as if we had a plague when we came in here. They would look at us with these really ominous looks. Well, we later found out about the deaths. Some I've never spoken of here, and I won't. Just because of certain families involved. They're still in the area. The 3 little girls that died of the Spanish influenza, which are buried in the woods out here. I mean, we knew none of this, okay, before we bought this place. But you want to hear something really neat in a way, kind of creepy. They say careful what you ask for. And I talk about the power of positive thinking, because inversely there is the power of negative thinking. But basically there's a philosophy called The Secret that states, and when we practice this, you got to really be careful about what you think, what you say, especially because the energy that you put out there into the universe gives you back. So if you're one of these types that are always worrying about bad things happening, I'm not going to have enough money to make the bills, or, I'm worried to death my car is going to break down because I can't afford to replace it. Cars are so expensive. Who could afford that? Well, here's what's going to happen. The universe is going to hear you. And what the universe is hearing is it's hearing, okay, not enough money, car's breaking down, can't afford a new car. That's what your life's going to be filled with. You're not going to have enough money to make your bills. Your car is constantly going to break, and you're never going to be in a position to be able to afford to replace it with a new one, because this is the message you're sending out. And the message, the universe gives you what it is you're telling it you want. And you're like, but no, I don't want these things. Well, then stop saying them. Stop saying them and train yourself to say, things might not be so good right now, but they're getting better. And things are getting better each day, each week, each month. Well, they're getting so much better, as a matter of fact. I don't care if the car breaks down, because I got the money to fix it, and soon I'll have enough money to replace it with a new car. You switch. You have a big paradigm shift. Instead of sending all this negative stuff out into the universe, send positive stuff out into the universe. It's amazing how this works. The universe will listen, it will respond, and it will give you what you're asking for. Brings us back to this story I'm telling you today. You got to be careful what you ask for, because throughout my entire life, as someone who's always kind of been interested in the paranormal, the supernatural, things that go bump in the night or knock knock in the day, it's pretty cool when you lived with them long enough that they're on cue, isn't it? If you didn't hear that, rewind it and put your ear pods in and listen. Back to going knock, 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 knock. I've always thought, how cool would it be to live in a haunted house? Wouldn't it be awesome to live in a house where people have maybe passed on through tragic means and their disgruntled spirit remains? And wouldn't it be cool if there was some creepy stuff out in the woods, like maybe, just potentially like a Bigfoot Sasquatch or Rougarous or what's that one thing people's always saying they're hearing? Wendigo, all this stuff. Well, I guess the universe was listening, because obviously our house is haunted. So I'm sitting there this morning, I'm having coffee, and okay, I heard footsteps, but I'm seeing nothing. I thought it was a deer, but there's nothing there. So I'm having coffee, and I hear this phone ringing. And I hadn't heard it. I've heard it once this winter. I can't remember exactly when, but because I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, there it is. Because it's not that I'd forgotten about it, but I hadn't thought about it since last winter. So I know this wasn't the first time, but I heard it, just a light ring. A light ring, and I'm drinking my coffee. My only concern with any of this weird stuff going on around here is that it might scare my wife and my son. I see it more than they do. They've seen some strange things or heard some strange things, and they write it off to creaky old floorboards or whatever. But as someone who I truly believe is an empath and perhaps can see things others can't, it's just always my hope that they don't see and sense a lot of these things that I sense and I see. So, Dearly, my beautiful bride, Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, she got up early today because she's so busy just in the last week or so with her new, Lumpia business. And you guys are great, by the way. She can't keep it listed. I mean, she'll go out, like we went into town yesterday, and we've given up with this back and forth to town 2 or 3 times a day. We get like a truckload of stuff. Well, not really a truckload, but half of a back seat. But we get as much of the ingredients and supplies as we can get. And she makes these orders up and says, okay, put them on Etsy, and we do, and within like literally hours before we go to bed, they're all sold out again. Or if we list them before we go to bed, they're sold out before we wake up. So thank you for that. But my point of that is not more shameless self-promotion of my wife's Lumpia business, which you can purchase yourself at our Etsy store. The link is in the description box below, by the way. But the real point of that is to show you why she got up early, because she likes to sleep in on the weekends, because she gets up early during the week to, she and I both get Daniel ready for school, pack his snacks, all that, spoil him rotten, get him off to school. We do it together. But she got up early because our son was he spent the night with a friend last night out this way, and she wanted to get up and get an early jump start on her work. Well, she's never heard the phone. I mentioned it, the phone in the wall. I mentioned it to her the first time I heard it. But it always stops by 6:30 or so. It stopped. Well, that's around the time she gets up, even during the week. So it was probably 7 by this time. I had not heard it for about an hour to an hour and a half, but I was still kind of a little bit concerned that she might. So I was trying to think of a way to definitely to get her to avoid that part of the house, which wasn't hard because she's doing all of her work in the kitchen and the dining room area. So she was away from that part of the wall in the living room where the wood stove is and where I hear the phone. And she's going on and on, talking about her day, talking about how much she missed our son, Daniel. And I'm like, yeah, I miss him too. So she goes upstairs for just a minute or so, and something happened like I've never experienced. This is the first time in the 6 years I've been in this house that I experienced this. I heard, it wasn't a ring, but like the sound that your phone makes, like if you get like a text or an IM or something, it's like a ding. I'd never heard that because the phone I hear in the wall sounds like one of the original, not like that predated the rotary phones, but the kind that you would hold here like this, speak into it here, but you had like a little bell-shaped thing you'd hold to your ear with the, just a wire coming out. But all of a sudden, this morning, while my wife's upstairs, I hear a ding. And I'm like, that's not my phone, because I turn my phone off at night. And I don't even turn it on until it comes to be time to get to work or whatever later in the afternoon, come out and make a video or whatnot. And my wife's phone is like always with her. She's a millennial. So she's upstairs. I'm thinking, well, there's no way certainly that's her phone. And besides, it didn't come from upstairs. It came from the kitchen. So I go in the kitchen, and I'm thinking, of course, at first, well, maybe it was my wife's phone. Then I hear it again. And it's very faint and it's very low. And I'm looking at the countertops, and everything is clean. This girl, she's just spotless with cleanliness and stuff. And I like it because I'm kind of a neat freak myself. I'm looking around. There's no phone. No phone anywhere. And I'm thinking of the phone that rings in the wall in the living room. And I'm like, what's going on here? Now it's coming from the kitchen. So she comes back downstairs, and she's going on and on about how she misses our son. And I said, I got an idea, honey. This sounds weird, because I'm helping her as much as I can doing with this Lumpia stuff. I help with packaging and whatnot. I said, listen, I miss our son too. And you've been working so hard this week at this Lumpia business, you've neglected like your exercise and everything else. And because what good is the wealth if you don't have your health, right? I mean, that's great that sales are going great and our Lumpia business is doing great, but she worked really hard last year. She went off to the Philippines for 3 months, didn't exercise there, and put on some pounds that she had shed before she left. She came back. Well, I'll tell you this, from the time she got back from the Philippines until now and got back into her regular exercise routine, she's lost 12 pounds, which is a lot for a tiny little, lady this big. So I said, you know what? This whole week you've been pushing this Lumpia thing, and I know it's snowing out here this morning. It's colder than you like it, but why don't you go for a walk? Why don't you walk to our friends and neighbors' house down the way there where our son is, pick him up, and you guys walk home. Just bundle up. Daniel had his coat and everything because we knew this weather was coming. I said, because, you've gotten out of the habit of exercising daily, or at least 4 or 5 days a week here in this past week. I don't think you've exercised since last weekend. It's a Sunday as I'm making this video. I think it was last Sunday, as a matter of fact, was the last time she went for a walk. And she said, that's a good idea. And she doesn't typically like cold weather. She hates cold weather because she's from the Philippines, the tropics. But she'd miss the heck out of our son, so she was willing to go get him. Well, I was buying time to get her out of the house so I could find out what was going on with this dinging of the phone I was hearing. So she bundled up and she left, and I told her, don't worry, I'll get all your ingredients, your materials, everything you're going to be working with ready and together while you're gone. I'm getting ready to step on this tripod. That's why I keep looking down. There's a wind picking up here. I'm going to have to stop talking with my hands and put them back here underneath this blanket and warm them up. So she leaves, and just no sooner than she shut the door, I heard that ding again, and it was coming from the walls. It was in the walls. I put up with this for 6 years, and I'm just to the point to where I want to get to the bottom of this stuff. And so it was like I pinpointed the sound. It was in between the walls, and then there was like a cabinet, the countertop cabinets underneath, and I was like, is there a phone in this freaking cabinet? So I opened up the cabinet door, and I pulled everything out of there. There was like Brillo pads, the little sponges, yellow on one side, the green Brillo type rougher part on the other side, some trash bags, all this stuff. I'm pulling out of here. No phones. There's nothing. I'm like, these people that watch me on YouTube are right. I must be crazy. That's why they call me Crazy Lake. I've entirely lost my mind. There's no phone back here. This is entirely my imagination. Now hear it again. Ding. I went outside the house, walked around to the side of the house where I would have been directly opposite from where I was standing on the inside. There's nothing. There was some snow. I kicked the snow around. There's no phone. So at this point, I am convinced there's a freaking phone in the wall of my house. I'm not hearing things. I'm not that crazy. So I'm like, I'm getting to the end of this. So I didn't go right back into my house. I went into my freaking woodshed, and I grabbed a freaking hatchet. And here's what I did when I got back inside. I don't care if I have to destroy the rest of this freaking... I will get you. I will get you. I will get you. Yeah, I literally tore that part of the cabinets out, that part of the wall out to get to what was dinging. And while I'm doing it, while I'm hacking, I'm like, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get to the bottom of this riddle. It's like whatever this potentially malevolent energy was within that wall knew I was coming for it. So it kept dinging and dinging, and it started ringing, and I just kept going harder and harder and harder and harder. And I got it. And here it is. So weird. I felt something, and look at this. This flashlight is charged. Both of them. I have new batteries. They keep going out. Look, I just turned it on. I'm not touching. Fully charged. This has been known to happen in association with paranormal activity. I can feel. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm just gonna have to. I got it. What? This is my wife's cell phone. What? Yeah, and a few minutes later, my wife comes in the door, her and my son together stomping snow off their feet. And so I meet them at the door. They come in the back door, and I had her phone in my hand, and she goes, "Oh, you got it. How'd you get that?" And I said, "What do you mean, how did I get this?" All right, I mentioned the house is 119 years old, right? Yeah. I mentioned it's winter. I didn't even need to mention it. You see it out here, right? All right, Science 101, 6th grade science level students. What happens to any solid object when it either heats or cools? Well, the answer, as most of you know, is as a solid object heats, it expands, and as it cools, it contracts. Our house is so old, and there's been a couple of different, to include in the kitchen, extensions put on, cabinets, all these sorts of things that were not part of the original structure have been added later, to where in the summer, sometimes as the house swells with the heat of the Virginia summer, when it's, on some days 100 degrees, there are certain doors in our house we can't open because they swell shut. Well, as it is in the winter, as the house gets cold and it contracts, there are like some cracks and creases in parts of the house where we think, oh my God, is the house falling apart? Only to find out as things warm up, no, it was just contracting to the point to where you could see a little gap here and there. Well, it appears as if during this winter's contraction, there's been a slight separation between the back wall of the kitchen and the back of those counters. It formed about 1.5 inches wide crevice, down through which yesterday evening, while my wife was in there working on her lumpia, she placed her phone there to listen to Rafi Tofo. Every Filipino and Filipino watching this video, and we got tons of you, Kamusta, we're glad you're here, knows exactly what it's like a Jerry Springer of the Philippines. Okay, he brings people on to his show and they talk about their drama, whatever. She likes to watch that show when she's in the kitchen washing dishes, cooking, or doing her. So she had laid her phone there to watch Rafi Tofo, and it slid down that crack. I was already like in bed. It was like 9 o'clock. That's late for a guy that gets up at 5 and runs, and sometimes I work out twice a day now. I did a bunch of firewood yesterday. Went and just ran kind of all kinds of errands. I was cream crackered, so I was in bed already. So she didn't tell me last night, and she forgot to mention it this morning. So all in all, she's happy I retrieved her cell phone. She's not so happy with that giant hole in the wall. I guess I got some repairs coming up here I'm going to have to do. But in the meantime, I need to get inside where it's warm. And it's not going to help me if I knock the phone off here. I'm trying to keep it from falling, not make it fall. But that's what happened. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. See y'all next time for more.